I'm not some big star. I'm just me.
New York's home, but it ain't mine no more.
Diamond, a legend loved by millions, but did he secretly hate 6 famous musicians? Let's find out the truth. If you love uncovering the real stories behind music icons, hit like, subscribe, and keep watching. This one's going to surprise you. The legend and the myth. In the world of music, the name Diamond isn't just a legend, it's an institution. A symbol of calm, romance, and resilience through changing times. With his unmistakable baritone voice, timeless classics like Sweet Caroline and Song Sung Blue have become the soundtrack of generations. But behind that smooth, comforting image, a new wave of online chatter has stirred something quite unexpected. At 84 years old, Diamond is rumored to have finally revealed the 6 musicians he hated the most during his career. Yes, 6 big names who allegedly tested his patience and pride. The claim first surfaced through a series of posts on music forums and YouTube channels boasting exclusive insider info. Often wrapped in sensational titles like Diamond finally exposes 6 artists he couldn't stand, a headline that naturally sent fans into a frenzy. Yet upon closer inspection, there's a strange silence. No interview clips, no official quotes, not even a secondhand confirmation. What exists instead is a growing pile of speculation and digital whispers that seem to multiply with every share. So is this just another clickbait invention? Or could there actually be some truth hidden beneath the legend's polished public persona? After all, in the entertainment world, ego clashes and subtle rivalries are as old as fame itself. Some music analysts suggest that stories like this are classic, legacy rumors, the kind that resurface when a legendary figure steps out of the spotlight, especially since retired in 2018 due to Parkinson's disease. But ironically, this rumor about 6 hated musicians has reignited global curiosity, bringing Diamond's name back into viral headlines once again. And the strangest part. When fans began speculating about who those 6 musicians might be, the names that appeared were even more bizarre and more revealing than anyone expected. The rumored names and why they circulate. Once the rumor gained traction, the internet did what it always does best: fill in the blanks. Within days, fan forums, threads, and even small entertainment blogs began listing their own theories about which musicians might have landed on Diamond's supposed hate list. Some pointed fingers at fellow icons from the same era, such as Bob, John, or citing creative differences or stylistic clashes as imagined causes. Others took a wilder turn, claiming he couldn't stand modern pop stars who disrespected classic songwriting. In one thread that went viral on X, formerly Twitter, a fan wrote, "You can feel the shade in his interviews when anyone mentions John," a statement that, of course, was never backed by actual evidence but spread like wildfire nonetheless. And that's the beauty and chaos of fan speculation. Once an idea sounds believable, it becomes its own truth. Journalists who revisited its old interviews found no direct hostility toward anyone, but they did note his candid remarks about the loss of authenticity in today's music scene. That tiny comment taken out of context was enough fuel for the rumor machine to run wild. Some YouTube channels even produced entire documentaries analyzing his facial expressions in old talk shows, as if deciphering a secret grudge from a raised eyebrow. Funny? Absolutely. Credible? Not really. But that's the internet for you, half detective agency, half forum. Music historians say this phenomenon isn't unique to Diamond. It happens to every living legend. When artists age and the spotlight fades, people start imagining hidden rivalries and secret feuds to keep the myth alive. It's like fans can't accept that some stars simply grow old gracefully. They need drama, even if they have to invent it. And perhaps in the age of clicks and headlines, being part of a rumor is just another way of staying relevant. Because as ridiculous as it sounds, this list of 6 enemies has once again made Diamond's name echo across social media timelines. But if there were truly sparks of tension in his long career, where would they have come from? To find the answer, we need to look at real-life moments of conflict, the few times when harmony briefly gave way to discord. Real friction and public discord. To understand why the rumor about Diamond's so-called hate list caught fire so easily, we have to look at the rare moments when the usually reserved singer actually found himself in conflict. Over his 6-decade career was famously private but not entirely controversy-free. One of the biggest flashpoints came in 1980 when he starred in the remake of The Jazz Singer. While the film gave the world unforgettable hits like Love on the Rocks and Hello Again, it also sparked outrage for a scene in which character performs in blackface, a decision that drew harsh criticism then and continues to be discussed decades later. Some critics claimed the scene showed poor judgment, others argued was simply following the original film's outdated script. Either way, it marked a rare crack in his otherwise spotless public image. And years later, another moment of backlash hit, this time not about race but about tone. A resurfaced performance clip from the 70s went viral on social media, where some younger viewers labeled it creepy or weirdly flirtatious, sparking debates about context and generational sensitivity. Who had long since retired from touring due to Parkinson's disease, never responded to the criticism, but fans came to his defense, reminding the internet that it was a different time. Beyond these moments, his reputation in the industry has always been one of quiet professionalism. He wasn't known for feuds, walkouts, or headline-grabbing spats. He was known for hard work, perfectionism, and delivering a show night after night. But sometimes, that very perfectionism created tension behind the scenes. A few former producers have hinted at being demanding in the studio, with one recalling, "He didn't argue, but when said, 'Let's do another take,' we did another take, no questions asked." That mix of control and confidence might have rubbed some collaborators the wrong way, and over the years, it's easy to imagine how minor creative disagreements could snowball into exaggerated rivalries. In truth, most of real-life frictions were about art, not animosity. Yet in the social media era, where a single misunderstood quote can be blown into a feud, those old stories suddenly sound like clues. And that's where this rumor finds oxygen, because a man as meticulous and private as Diamond makes the idea of secret grudges feel oddly plausible. But what if the reality isn't about anger at all? What if it's about ego, power, and the complex emotions that come with being a living legend? Behind the scenes, ego, influence, and rivalry. There's one thing the music industry has taught us. It's that ego and artistry often share the same dressing room. Even the legends have moments when pride gets in the way of peace. Diamond, for all his warmth on stage, was no stranger to that quiet tension that brews behind closed studio doors. Colleagues from his early years often described him as intensely focused, a perfectionist who wanted every lyric, every chord, every breath in perfect harmony. One producer joked, "You didn't argue with, you just waited for him to prove he was right." And more often than not, he was. That obsessive dedication helped him craft timeless hits, but it also made collaboration a challenge. Unlike the free-spirited rockers of his era, ran his sessions like a military operation, disciplined, precise, and emotionally charged. Some session musicians whispered that he could be difficult, though never cruel. Others admired him for his clarity and integrity, saying, when said he didn't like something, it wasn't personal, it was because he knew exactly what he wanted to hear. But here, where things get interesting, when you're surrounded by other massive stars, that same confidence can be mistaken for arrogance. Fellow artists like John or Billy Joel, known for their flamboyance, might have seen seriousness as aloofness. Meanwhile, critics often compared him unfavorably to songwriters like Bob, suggesting that emotional sincerity lacked the poetic grit that defined the counterculture. Those comparisons, fair or not, created a subtle current of rivalry that likely never left the gossip circuit. Still, rarely bit back. He stayed in his lane, writing songs about love, longing, and the human condition, while others played the fame game. Yet in private, close friends have admitted that he did pay attention to those comparisons. He was too classy to clap back, one insider said, but you could tell it stung when critics called his music too polished. That sting, mixed with the pressure of sustaining a spotless career, may have brewed an unspoken resentment towards certain peers. Not hatred, perhaps, but that quiet artistic envy only musicians understand. Because in the world of rivalry doesn't always sound like shouting, it often sounds like silence. And when legends like Diamond retreat into that silence, the world starts guessing what or who might be behind it. Why this rumor persists: clickbait, fan culture, and legacy wars. If you've ever wondered how a whisper on the internet turns into a wildfire, Diamond's so-called hate list is the perfect case study. In the digital era, truth often takes the backseat to traffic, and nothing fuels traffic like a juicy headline about an aging superstar finally exposing his rivals. YouTube channels, gossip sites, and algorithm-hungry blogs thrive on this formula. Take a legendary name, add a provocative verb like reveals, admits, or confesses, and let curiosity do the rest. Before you know it, thousands of fans are debating something that never actually happened. In this case, the rumor hit all the sweet spots: nostalgia, drama, and mystery. Fans who grew up idolizing him couldn't resist the temptation to click, while younger audiences who barely knew his name suddenly found him trending again. It's ironic, really. The man who wrote one of the most wholesome sing-alongs in history, Sweet Caroline, was suddenly painted as a secret grudge holder. And that contrast, the idea of America's sweetheart harboring dark opinions, was simply too delicious for the internet to ignore. But beyond the clickbait, this rumor speaks to something deeper: our obsession with conflict. We love to imagine rivalries between icons because it humanizes them. It makes legends feel like us, flawed, emotional, and occasionally petty. Add to that the phenomenon of legacy wars, where fans of one artist battle another across generations, and suddenly Diamond is dragged into debates he never asked to join. In a sense, this rumor isn't just it's about us. About a culture addicted to speculation, about audiences who crave tea over truth. Even respected entertainment outlets have been guilty of fanning the flames, using suggestive language like cryptic comments or thinly veiled references just to keep readers hooked. But when you strip away the sensationalism, there's no real evidence, no recordings, no interviews, no confession. What remains is a fascinating reflection of how fame works in the 21st century. Sometimes being loved isn't enough, you have to be controversial to stay relevant. And whether he intended it or not, Diamond found himself back in the headlines, not for his music, but for a myth. Still, every myth has its roots in emotion. So the question remains, if this rumor won't die, maybe it's because deep down it touches on something real, something hidden between admiration and resentment, success and solitude. The psychology of rumors, why fans want to believe it. Behind every viral rumor lies a curious truth. People want to believe it, especially when it comes to legends like Diamond, whose spotless reputation leaves fans hungry for something, anything, that feels more human. Psychologists who study celebrity culture say that rumors about conflict or hidden bitterness appeal to a deep psychological itch. Fans invest emotionally in stars, often seeing them as extensions of their own identities, so when a rumor surfaces, like secretly hatting 6 musicians, it gives them a new layer of connection, like discovering a secret about an old friend. It's the same reason audiences devour behind-the-scenes documentaries and unfiltered tell-all interviews. We crave imperfections because perfection feels too far away. And Diamond, he's been the very definition of perfection for decades. Smooth, disciplined, elegant, almost too put together. That image makes people wonder what's underneath. Could he ever get angry? Did he ever feel jealousy? Did fame ever make him snap? Those questions fuel a strange kind of intimacy. They make the myth feel real again. Then there's nostalgia, a powerful drug. His core audience grew up with his music playing at weddings, road trips, and family gatherings. Now, decades later, they scroll through YouTube and stumble upon a headline claiming their idol once called out his rivals. And suddenly it's like reliving a secret chapter of their own youth. Click, they comment, they share, not because they believe it's true, but because it gives them something to feel. And on the other side of the screen, the algorithm rewards that emotion with even more content, creating a loop where rumor becomes entertainment. In truth, fans don't need proof, they just need engagement. Moment of surprise, the tiny jolt of what if that's enough. And when a celebrity hasn't been active publicly for years, the imagination rushes in to fill the silence. After all, mystery is magnetic. The less you say, the more people talk. So maybe that's the real reason this hate list refuses to die. It's not about being angry. It's about fans wanting their hero to still feel something even in his 80s. It's the emotional illusion that keeps legends alive long after the last encore fades. Diamond's true character, beyond the headlines. Strip away the noise, and what remains of Diamond is not bitterness but grace. Those who work closely with him describe a man who balances precision with humility. Perfectionist, yes, but one with a deep respect for everyone in the room. Backstage was known for quiet kindness, greeting lighting crews by name, shaking hands with stage techs, even writing thank you notes to producers after long recording sessions. It's not exactly the behavior of someone with a hate list. When his health forced him to retire from touring in 2018, his farewell message to fans wasn't one of frustration but gratitude. "I've been so honored to bring my songs to the public for 50 years, he wrote, before thanking his band and audience for making my life so beautiful. No grudges there, just love. Even in interviews, he rarely spoke ill of anyone. When asked about changing music trends, didn't rant about today's artists. He simply said, every generation finds its own truth and sound. It's the kind of answer that frustrates gossip writers because it leaves no room for scandal. Yet that same quiet dignity may be what makes him such a magnet for rumor. He never fights back. He lets the stories run their course just as he lets his songs speak for themselves. One longtime collaborator joked, doesn't clap back, he just outsings you. And in a way, that's true. His entire career has been one long rebuttal to cynicism. He proved that sincerity could sell, that romance could still matter in a world obsessed with irony. Even now, living a private life away from the stage, he occasionally reappears, like in 2022, when he surprised Broadway audiences by joining the cast of A Beautiful Noise in a sing-along of Sweet Caroline. The crowd roared and smiled softly, letting the music do the talking. That moment said more about who he is than any rumor ever could. For a man accused of hatting his peers, he sure seems at peace with the world. So maybe the real revelation isn't about whom Diamond despises, it's about how little he needs to. But as long as the internet keeps spinning stories, people will keep wondering, can someone so universally adored truly be untouched by rivalry? The media machine, how legends become clickbait. In today's media landscape, legends like Diamond don't just make headlines, they become them. Once a star reaches a certain level of fame, the person fades and the brand takes over. Every word, every silence, every facial expression becomes fair game for interpretation. Journalists, bloggers, and algorithm-driven content farms know this all too well. Rumor about hatting 6 musicians is irresistible because it offers everything a viral post needs. A famous name, a shocking twist, and 0 verification requirements. It's the holy trinity of clickbait. Think about it, who's going to fact-check an 84-year-old legend who's largely retired and avoids interviews? The silence becomes the story. One entertainment columnist once joked, if Diamond sneezed on stage, someone would write NEIL Diamond EXPLODS in rage. Within 15 minutes, and honestly they're not wrong, the digital news cycle feeds on speed, not accuracy. The first outlet to publish gets the traffic. The correction, if it ever comes, arrives when nobody's looking. What makes it worse is the nostalgia economy. Those endless YouTube thumbnails with blurry photos and titles like They Tried to Silence Diamond, or The Dark Secret Behind Sweet Caroline. Viewers click out of curiosity, stay for the drama, and leave believing half a truth. Storytelling is spectacle where the facts take a backseat to emotion, and the algorithms love it. The more outrage, the more engagement, the more revenue. Somewhere along the way, journalism turned into digital theater. Yet ironically, this endless speculation keeps artists like Diamond relevant. Even false drama ensures his name stays in circulation, just like how myths keep gods alive in old stories. In a world where attention is currency, a fabricated feud can be worth more than a platinum record. Still, it raises a haunting question. When fame lasts this long, does an artist ever truly own their own story anymore? Or does the media decide what becomes true simply because it gets clicks? For Diamond, a man whose lyrics once defined authenticity, that's the twist of all. The truth gets buried beneath the noise, and the myth becomes the melody. The legacy of kindness, what his peers really say about him. When you strip away the gossip, what's left is the testimony of those who actually knew Diamond, and that story couldn't be further from the six enemies myth. Talk to anyone who's shared a studio or stage with him, and the word you'll hear most often isn't arrogant or bitter, it's gracious. John once referred to as the ultimate gentleman of American songwriting, while Barbara, who collaborated with him on the timeless duet You Don't Bring Me Flowers, called him a true romantic, both in his music and his manners. Even Billy Joel, often seen as a musical rival in the 1970s, once said in an interview, "He's one of the few guys who made sincerity sound cool. He writes from the heart, and that takes guts. That's hardly the language of contempt." Musicians who toured with him recall how he'd spend hours after rehearsals talking about music, storytelling, and even personal struggles, without ego, without pretense. One backup singer shared that when her father passed away during a tour, quietly paid for her family's travel expenses without ever mentioning it again. He just said, "Take care of your people, that's what matters," she recalled. Acts of generosity like that rarely make headlines because kindness doesn't trend as well as controversy. But within the music community, those stories circulate quietly, painting a portrait of a man whose empathy far outweighs his temper. Even his competition respected him. Decades ago, often labeled a rival songwriter remarked, "You can't hate Diamond. You might envy him, but you can't hate him." It's ironic, then, that the internet insists on giving him enemies when those who actually met him only found warmth. And maybe that's what makes him fascinating in today's cynical age. A star who built an entire empire on sincerity, who stayed gentle when others turned brash, and who still finds joy in a simple song. While the rumor mill spins out stories of grudges and bitterness, his peers quietly keep another narrative alive, one of loyalty, gratitude, and grace. If anything, Diamond's real legacy isn't a list of enemies, but a long line of friends. And that, perhaps, is why the myth of hate rings so hollow. But even so, as the curtain falls on one of music's greatest careers, one final question lingers. What does himself think about this strange new reputation the internet has given him? The final word, what the legend really leaves behind. As the dust settles on decades of speculation, it becomes clear that Diamond's real story was never about who he hated. It was about how deeply he loved his craft, his audience, and the timeless power of song. The rumor of 6 musicians he despised will eventually fade into the same digital oblivion where most internet gossip dies. But the melodies he left behind will continue to echo through weddings and late-night karaoke bars for generations. Because for every fake headline, there's a chorus of voices still singing Sweet Caroline at the top of their lungs, long after the lights go out. And maybe that's the perfect ending for a man who built his legacy not on shock value, but on sincerity. In a culture addicted to outrage, Diamond stands out as the rare artist who didn't need controversy to stay relevant. His songs did that for him. Behind the glittering jackets and perfect stage lighting was a human being who lived for connection. Even as Parkinson's disease gradually silenced his touring life, he never disappeared. Instead, he found new ways to share his music, licensing his catalog for charity performances, mentoring young artists, and quietly attending shows of his Broadway biopic A Beautiful Noise just to cheer from the audience. He became a witness to his own legend, smiling humbly as others carried his torch forward. In that quiet acceptance lies a powerful truth. Legacy isn't built by what people say about you, but by what you leave behind when the noise fades. Diamond leaves behind warmth, integrity, and a soundtrack that will outlive every rumor. So perhaps in a poetic twist, the hate list became the best reminder of who he really is. A man so universally beloved that the world refuses to believe he could ever hold a grudge. In the end, his silence spoke louder than any scandal ever could. Because while the internet argued over fiction, kept doing what he's always done best, letting the music do the talking.